Paige Petty Visual Aid Speech.
And I'll be taping her mother. And that's her father.
Okay. Whorls, loops, and arches. These are all patterns. But of what? Fingerprints. In November 2013, 26,000 fugitives were identified using the National Database System of Fingerprints. Biometric Service Section 2013, FBI.gov. I am a forensic science major, and since fingerprints are used by forensic scientists to solve crimes, it is necessary to first talk about the history of fingerprints, secondly, the issues of fingerprints and their coordinating solutions, and thirdly, the importance of fingerprints for identification. So now I will tell you about the history. Before fingerprints, there was anthropometry, which you had to measure out different parts of the body. There's a picture of some of the measurements they would do, and because of the varying standards for measuring, then they found out soon that it was very inaccurate. And then another important contributor or part of history is William Herschel. He's the first one to recognize that fingerprints can be used for identification. And then another person that's important is Francis Galton, and he's the first pioneer, or he's the first one that really got into it, fingerprints and the research, and he actually wrote the first book about fingerprints, and there's the cover of it right there.
Was the name of it Fingerprints?
Yes. And then another important event was the Rojas case of Argentina. Juan Vocetek was learning about fingerprints, and he actually found one at the scene. So he brought it up to the suspect, and she freaked out, and then she's like, okay, I did it. So this was the first conviction using fingerprints in the world, and this was after this crime. Vocetek also created the first record system using fingerprints. So now that I told you, Juan Vocetek, Evans 2007 Casebook of Forensic Detection, and Galton.org 2014. So now that I told you about the history, I will now tell you about the issues of fingerprints and the coordinating solutions. The first issue is partials, and they're bad because you can't particularly identify one person, so it's class evidence, but you can eliminate suspects, which lowers the amount of people you have to look for. And then another problem is training, because it's not uniform, so there's a lot of improper collection and evaluation going on, identifying the wrong people. And a solution to that would be to make a uniform mandatory certification for all forensic scientists, and this would be a practical exam. And now that I told you about the issues of fingerprints, I will now tell you about the importance of them for identification. There's 3 genetic rules. They never change. They're unique to each person, even twins, and they're not hereditary. So you can't have the same fingerprints as your mom or dad. And then there's also the Locard's exchange principle. Every form of contact leaves a trace. So between the crime scene, the victim, or the suspect, there's always an exchange. So fingerprints just provide another exchange. And fingerprints are also stored electronically, which makes it easy to store and are very accessible to agencies. So it really helps with investigations. So today I told you about the history of fingerprints, the issues of fingerprints and their coordinating solutions, and the importance of fingerprints for identification. And I would also like to say something very important. It's one of the only forms of evidence that you can say that it's a particular person, it's individual evidence. And okay, thank you.